Now that you have a fair understanding of what machine learning is and have a good idea of various different machine learning projects, in this one, let's understand how a typical ML or data science project workflow typically looks like. To understand this, we will look at it from two different perspectives. One is a minimalistic version where we will look at only the core activities that are part of a data science or a machine learning project. We will first look at this, we will understand this first. Then we will go into a more detailed version as if you are actually implementing a machine learning project. And this sort of are the various activities that happen in a real company also to implement a data science project. Let's look at this in both perspectives. To understand this, let's take a real project. We will go through the steps based on this particular real project. Now, the problem statement that we are looking at is you are working for a real estate brokerage firm. You're working as a data scientist. Now, this firm is facing a problem. The problem is the sellers who are listing their properties on their portal, the sellers often quote an inflated price at the beginning for their respective properties. And once they quote, the properties don't sell initially as it is. And then after a certain point in time, they bring the price down to a more realistic level and then the sales happen, right? Now, to make a solution for this, to make the sales happen a little bit more faster and make things more realistic, the company wants to build an AI driven tool that the sellers can use to predict a fair quote for their property. It should be a fair quote, it should be realistic. By providing this tool or a utility, the company wants to provide this tool to the sellers, to the various different people who are listing their properties on the portal. They want to make it available to them so that a realistic quote is placed on the portal and the sale happens faster basically. Now, this is the project. So basically, the firm wants you to build a prediction engine. This prediction engine is going to be the workhorse that is going to give the dollar value of a given property, right? This will be shown to the users. To this prediction engine, you are going to give certain set of inputs, and this is shown to the users. User gives the input in this case. All right. And your job is to build this engine. What are the typical basic steps involved? Now, let's look at the minimalistic workflow. Just three steps. The first step is you will want to collect the data that you are going to require to build that engine. Data collection. That is the first step. Once you collect the data, you train your machine learning model using a machine learning algorithm. This is the second step. Just train your model. Once your model is trained, you are going to deploy it somewhere and you will work probably with the software engineering team to make the solution be available to the users. So you deploy your machine learning solution, just three different steps. Now, in this particular case, we are making the engine available to the users in the front end of the website, right? Available to the end users who are the customers through the front end. Alternately, another type of deployment would be you can make this solution predict the property price for a whole bunch of properties, all the different properties that are listed on your platform. You can predict all of it in one go and then make it available into a database. Instead of users directly using your tool lies in the back end, makes all the predictions for all the properties listed on the portal, then updates into a database, and then software engineers can take it from this database and show to the end users. That can also be possible. So the word deployment can mean various things for various different end users for various different objectives. So if you want to allow the tool to be played by the end users, you might want to show it as a front end. Whereas if you want to just store it in a database, store the output of the prices of the different houses in a database, you can do that also. That is also called a deployment. Coming back to collecting the data, now the data here refers to the actual data about the house and the locality that will actually help us estimate the value of the house. Thinking about it like a real estate agent who is the expert in this field, in this particular project, what are all the different factors a real estate agent or the persons involved in that field will be looking at in order to come up with the price? So these things could be like the area of the house, the locality of the house, zip code, schools nearby, things like this. These are all things that matter that determines the price of the house, isn't it? So collecting data involves putting together all those information and making it ready for the next step, which is training the data, training your machine learning model. Here, this model will map your input data, your input X, we call it generally as the X, This maps it to an output Y, which is nothing but the price of the house. Once this is satisfactorily built, you can go into deploying the solution. Now, this overall thing is the minimalistic workflow in a given machine learning project. Now, let's take a step back and think about what really will have to happen in order for us to completely build the solution as a project rather than building a simple machine learning model and deploying it. What are all the different aspects you need to take care when you implement it as a machine learning project? There can be multiple different ways to organize your project into multiple phases. What you see here, the flow that you see here is one such method. We are going to look at all these steps, that is discover, design, develop, validate, test, deploy, and then optimize. Let's look at the activities that happen in these steps in more detail.